And welcome to Zolder. I don't think I've made a video on this track before, and if I did, I don't recall. But anyway, I think it's a fun one. So let's get to it. This lobby had a bit of a funny setup in that it started with qualifying, then there was a race, and then there was free practice. So the order didn't make much sense, but since it was on repeat, of course that puts it right after one go around. So I joined just at the end of the previous race, so I got a bit of a pre-practice session in, which this clip is from. So as you saw, I set out to do an out lap, and then I started for a fast lap. And I did a few already, but yeah. So here into the first corner, it's very wide. You have to slow down enough, but then get on the gas quite soon and really drive it all the way to the outside and try to get on the throttle as early as possible. Similar deal here in corners. I think 3, 2, 3, and 4. It's like 3 linked corners basically. So it's a bit difficult, I find, to navigate and find the correct line because it's just such a massively wide track. But anyway, then a very fast sweeping right-hander. Just go on the brakes just long enough and then try to get on the throttle nice and early again. And then it brings you to a very bumpy chicane. Try to take as much of the apex curbs as you can, but yeah, it's a risky affair. The second chicane is much more easy to navigate once you're on it, but the braking zone is quite difficult. And then the next 2 corners you have to be very patient before really getting on the gas, but then it's full throttle through the last corner. Then we come to a hairpin, similar, and then a tiny chicane that doesn't amount to much. The hairpin, similar to the one in Barcelona and La Source in Spa, I feel you benefit super heavily by cutting a lot of the curb because it gives you much more room on entry and exit than if you miss the curb by a little bit. Finally, there's another chicane, relatively big one, and that brings us back across the start-finish line. So fun track. The first sector is so wide open that it's kind of difficult to find the right line. But then after it gets more narrow, less overtaking opportunities, of course. But yeah. Anyway, I set off to qualifying. I put down a 132.9, which isn't all that great because my personal best is a 131.2. But I have driven this track very infrequently. I just had one stint quite a few months ago where I drove it more. So by now I have forgotten my best lines, I guess, and I have to refine them. So with just this first revisit basically in a long time, I'm not gonna quite get there. But yeah, so here in the chicane, it's always a matter of trying to cut as much of the curbs as you can, but then the bumps sometimes they go really wrong and sometimes they go quite right and you suddenly gain a bunch of time, so very difficult. Then the braking zone here. Okay, yeah, I was wondering, this doesn't look like a valid lap. Yeah, so braking zone there is quite difficult because you come over a hill around the corner and then you have to straighten the car out right before the braking zone, so not that easy. Here, really cut a lot of the curb, even touch some grass if you can. I'm surprised I let this clip in. I thought I just put down my best lap. But okay, I suppose it's still upcoming. And then the chicane 2 cut a lot of the curb. So it's a theme for all 3 chicanes, cutting a lot of the curbs. But the first one is the most difficult in that regard because yeah, it has much more elevation in the curbs. And the second and the third one are better in that regard, but the second one has a difficult braking zone, and the third one is pretty straightforward. So off we go. I guess this will be my fastest lap, but by now I've talked quite a bit about the track. But maybe personal anecdote. As a kid, I was pretty sporty and agreeable. So when I was in middle school and my teacher asked, hey, there's this cycling event at Zolder, do you want to go? I told him that, well, actually I'm not a cycler really, like a racing cyclist. So I don't have a bike for it. He said, yeah, no worries, they can give you one on loan. So off I went, and I arrived in my flappy sport clothes. I didn't have the spandex that is typical for cyclists. And then at the event they were a bit surprised to see me. Like, yeah, I guess we do have bikes on loan. So I got one from the 1970s. And then I competed with all these kids who took it super seriously. And one took it so seriously that in the previous corner he pushed me on the curb, and I fell. I had a big gash in my knee, and I had to walk all of this part of the track back to the paddock, where my dad was waiting, and then we drove home, which I used to live in Belgium at the time. So yeah, it wasn't like hours and hours away, but still not that close to Zolder from my home at the time. And we went by motorcycle, so I had to bend my knee all the way home with this motorcycle suit pressing into the big gash, and it was really crap. Anyway, a big old tangent, but that was qualifying. I qualified P5, I think. I thought so. At the start of the race, I think P3 had left, so then we had to move up a spot, so I had to go to the left. And P1 here coming back to the front will drop all the way back. And then the yellowish car now on the right will also drop quite far back. They were the two people that had especially P1, but P2 to a lesser degree as well, had a much faster qualifying time than anyone else. So they're looking to do a back to front race basically. It puts me close to the front. I start P2 basically, but on the left side, not the side I'm familiar with. So I follow the leader, and unfortunately they go a little wide, I go even wider. So if you look here at the replay, I believe the person in front of me is Noz. So Shishuk, Donovan and RG I think all drop back. So Smilevsky here coming through hits me after I unsafely rejoined, but my car was out of control. I couldn't really do much at that point yet, so that was very unfortunate. But so yeah, bad start to the race. But then immediately on the left we see GR I think, and then here Chen went off, which usually I'm happy to try and come back and overtake back markers, but these two people had driven super badly in free practice and qualifying, so I was happy to be past them already. Oh yeah, I should also mention the timing sheet is on the Fritz again, so you can maybe just look at it to recognize the names that I'm saying if it's not clear. But the order and the gaps are completely off and not updating at all, so yeah. Anyway, I'm on the hunt here. I'm hoping to come back and catch up with at least people further back in the pack. I see someone went to the pits. I think that was Noz. I didn't see them all race, so that kind of makes sense. And so we see in front of me the number 1 car. I believe that would be Shishuk. Not sure how to pronounce the name. And then the number 2 car would be Donovan. So it's still the numbers still reflect the start of the race. We see number 1 car here stuck on the left. They had something went on there, but it will become clear actually what happened later. And then it seems, I think, that the number 2 car went into the pits. Yeah, Donovan went into the pits. So we won't be seeing them for a while at least. So now I'm still trying to chase people down. Number 6, who's that? Oh, yeah, RG was number 6, so it's the person in front of me, I guess. And then the number 3 car is further down the road together with someone else that I can't recognize yet. I did notice that Shishchuk, the fastest guy in qualifying, is coming back hard on me, so they were spun out at the end of the previous lap, but they recovered and are now coming for me. And in qualifying they did a lap time 2 or 3 seconds faster than me, I think 2 point something. So I didn't really think I would stand a chance defending this indefinitely, but since they picked up the gauntlet of going from the back to the front, I figured, you know, I deserve to be here, I am gonna defend. They come alongside here under braking. Kind of expected to move, but I didn't defend too hard either because I don't want to lose too much time with this. So I do still hope to catch up with the people in front. But then in my rear view mirror, I just see him suddenly go off the track, and yeah, that was it for the overtake attempt. So here, coming out of the section chicane, they have caught up a lot. in this whole lap basically, but there especially. And then here they're telegraphing the move, going for the dive. So I leave them plenty of room on the inside. I do maintain my position on the outside. Through this mini chicane, leave them room, but they're on the grass and hitting the throttle more than their traction allows. So if they spin, they hit the wall, and won't be seeing them for a while either, I suppose. So in front of me is still RG, Roland, or Roland is the first name, that much I know, so I'll just call them Roland. They go wide in turn 1 here, they hit a bit on the gravel, which is very easy to do because it's hard to judge when you can get on the throttle again. And then here's this combined corner, I think 2, 3, 4, maybe it's just 2 and 3, but yeah. Chasing them down and brake hard, but not too long. Try to get on the throttle before you even cut the apex, or maybe that's just a bad habit of mine, I'm not sure, but then run as wide as you can, but right after the curb there's gravel, so you have to be very careful there. And then get on the brake at about the 100 meter mark for the chicane, and then cut the curbs as much as you dare and as much as the car can handle. Here, cut the curb super aggressively, especially on the second part of the chicane, because otherwise you have a very awkward angle into the previous corner. And then this corner is supposed to be flat out, but it's not quite easy. It feels a little like a mini Stavolo to me from Spa. Then here, get on the brakes just before the 100 meter sign, at least for me. And yeah, I'm catching up very nicely here with the person in front. Actually, I do remember now that this is Smilewski, I'm pretty sure, not Roland. I think Roland is a way down the way further. And this was a very weird moment. So here is Shishchuk, and it looked like he was waiting for someone. And since I was very respectful, I figured it has to be this other guy here, Smilewski. And Smilewski seems to kind of be afraid of him because he's holding back a bit, which gives me a super easy overtake. Also on Shishchuk, but yeah, it was a back marker, so it doesn't really count. But then I went looking, and this is what happened on lap 1, so I think it may have played into it, but I'm not sure. There was no messages in chat where people were flaming each other or anything. So Shishchuk is trying for an overtake in the final chicane. Smilewski bumps them, and then they're already unsettled, so they're a bit slow in the middle of the chicane, and Smilewski just bumps them further off track, so that's when I saw them spun out. Anyway, I get the overtake, but Smilewski tries to come back at me. Doesn't really work out though. And then in the second corner they go way too deep and they lose even more ground. So I think they're at this point back behind Shishchuk. So you can see it clear in the replay too. So I'm going for the ideal braking line. They come on the inside. I see them coming, so again I leave room. But then they have a much tighter line, which is very much not ideal in that corner. You really want to run it as wide as possible. So I take the lead again. And then into turn 2 they just break themselves and yeah, are slow. I guess Shishchuk didn't get back past them, but they did come very close to tagging them, so good that there was no damage there, at least. So anyway, I'm back on my merry way. I think I may have got something there. In any case, not much will be happening for the next lap or so, so I will cut ahead, and we're now on lap 6. My best time in this race was a 1:33.3, and at times in the recording it turned purple, which I think that someone had done a faster lap, but then had left the lobby, so suddenly I was the person with the fastest lap. That was officially correct. But anyway, a bit down the line, I'm catching up with Smilewski again. So it seems that something happened. I assume they pitted, and I'm already looking to lap them. That was very surprising, but yeah, they're getting the blue flags as you can see. And I was kind of hoping they would defend, because not much was going on for me at that point in the race, so I was just looking to battle instead of just being waved through. And they did. Into the hairpin they were taking a defensive line, and here again they are pinching me a bit to the left. So I tried to just outbrake them. A little late on the brakes for me, but very manageable, and actually a pretty good line through the chicane. And that's the position gained, or well, not position gained since I was just lapping them, but yeah. that was the pass then, even if they defended with blue flags. So here we'll see the defensive line. They're staying away from the full outside and then right, so I can't go there, but then if I would try to the inside, I would also be heavily pinched, so also not very desirable. My typical defensive move is a bit about the same. So here I'm already alongside and they try to pinch me more and come close to banging doors, but not quite, I think. And then they have a bit of a slide coming out of the chicane and immediately there's a small gap. So yeah, move done, lap them, and I'm on my way again for them to disappear in my mirrors, hopefully. Not quite immediately though, because they try to come back at me again, but they go wide in turn 1 and they end up in the dirt. And I don't think we'll be seeing them again for a while at least. But so about the defensive move, what I wanted to say is pretty much what I typically do as well. You know, stay a bit away from the outside of the lead up of the corner, but I always try to, or usually try to, move back over to the full outside right before I start braking, so that they don't have a chance to follow me anymore, but I leave them pinched if they would try to go on the inside. Then, a bit down the line again, I think I cut a bit of the race. I suddenly drive, I was P2 at this point, and I suddenly drive by Roland, which was very strange. They were just going very slow on track for seemingly no reason. And I think they were a bit bored driving out front by themselves, so I think they just let me pass, since I was in P2, to just try and retake the position after, nothing more, to battle a bit, which to me was very welcome, because they were faster than me and I didn't seem to stand a chance really to catch up. They were about, I think, at some point 20 seconds ahead. So took a while for the timesheet to update, but now I have my P1 with Roland chasing me down. At this point I definitely clocked onto what they were doing, because they had sped up very heavily and nothing had really changed in why they would have been so slow and now fast. So it was clearly intentional. Do a new personal best, 133.3 again, so I guess it was a marginal improvement on the last one. And somehow it's still a purple lap, which seems crazy. But I don't mind it, of course. Roland seems to be catching up pretty quickly, but not as fast as I might have expected at first, actually. So I am looking at what they're doing in my mirrors. Not expecting a move here, although they do come quite close. I think that chicane is probably my weakest point on the track. I really don't know how to approach it exactly. This one I think I do quite okay at times, but it's hard to be consistent. You have to really try and come out on the left after the second turn, because otherwise the next corner comes super fast. So if you don't, then it's just very tight and it's already such a narrow track. Looked like Roland might go for a move there, but I think I did my typical defense of staying a bit away from the outside, but not leaving a car's width there, and then moving over at the last moment. And here I just repeated my move, which I figured might have them figure it out from the previous one and react accordingly, and indeed they did. They read what I was doing, since it was the same thing. So here, at the last moment before braking, moved over left again. They were looking at the inside, but since it was so tight, I guess they didn't go for it. And this maneuver also doesn't leave me too compromised. But then here I do the same thing, not really leaving a car's width on the outside, pinching on the inside, but they just went for it. And I was braking too early anyway, so pretty easy pass for them. I think if I was braver mid-corner, I could have stayed alongside. I waited a bit with getting on the throttle because I expected them to run deeper in the middle of the chicane, but then yeah. Anyway, back behind them. The natural order of things, if we're being honest. Also at this point in the race, Donovan, you might recall them from all the way at the start, so they were the, I think, at least yellowish car, a lot of yellow in their livery. They had made a mighty comeback, because at some point they were in the pits, so I think they are now probably the car behind on track. If not that one, then the next one that you can see on the minimap. So I'm still chasing Roland. I'm kind of unaware of all of this. I didn't recall the name Donovan from the start of the race. Here I catch up heavily with Roland because my line through the chicane there was so much better. And in general, I was being dragged along basically by Roland. I saw them doing their lines and just kind of following, and I was motivated to try and go as fast as I could. And it's paying off with I'm basically, for a bit I'm up more than a second on my delta, but now about 9/10. So yeah. A very clear effect of being behind a fast guy. I do seemingly lose a lot of time in that last chicane, but then I gain it back on exit, so I suppose my lowest minimum speed was a bit lower, but then my exit was better because of it. So yeah, new personal best, 132.5, but it seems that Roland did put down a solid lap without track limits, so I assume they take purple lap now because it disappeared right when they crossed the line and I didn't gain it back with my lap, so makes sense. Previous corner I was pushing quite hard, so I had to catch a slide, and then even after I went back on the throttle there was another mini slide, but I hung on. And then I skipped a lap, which the cut was pretty sleek, even if I say so myself, so might not have been super noticeable. But I cut a lap because not much else happened. I was just behind Roland trying to stick with him. And then I noticed the lap down the line, I noticed in my rearview mirrors Donovan appearing now, so they are coming up super fast. Especially the second chicane, I mess up my exit there, and then the next corner is really slow. In this corner we passed just now, they throw a bit of the dummy on the inside. I think it's just to put pressure on me, to try and bait me into a mistake, because I don't think it's a genuine passing opportunity. But I wasn't too worried about it because I knew it would be kind of dumb to try and go for it there. With all of that though, I have fallen back a bit from Roland. And here, yeah, they look like they might think about a move, but then I think they were a bit too far back, so nothing doing there for them. But now on this main straight, they have a pretty decent run on me. So I see them coming on the inside, expected it too. So I leave room, but we end up bumping into each other anyway. I was pretty happy with my held on the slide, and they were worse off for the contact. So here, last chicane, they have a better exit line, even though they don't use all of the space on the exits. Well, especially their first turn was better than mine, so they could have had a better exit line, but then leaving the space unused on exit made it so that they didn't quite get an overtake done on the straight already. And then in this corner, I'm inclined to call it a racing incident. We both left each other. We both had space still. They on the inside, I on the outside. I think I have more right to put the line since I was the lead car still. But yeah, I think they just had a bit of understeer and steered into me. So no hard feelings. It's just a bit of hard racing for me, from my perspective. But yeah. Then we saw Roland letting me pass in a very awkward spot, because where I passed him, you really want to run all the way to the outside. You're full on the throttle for quite a while there, and I had to quite catch the car quite hard not to crash into them, and that compromised my line into this corner, which gave them a very easy run on the next straight. So that was a little silly, to be honest. I don't mind that, and then in the background we see this doomsday character of Donovan showing back up. But yeah, so I don't mind that they want to have battles and so on and let me pass and then try to repass me, but that felt just a bit silly because the way they let me pass made it so that they had a super easy overtake immediately after that they then went for it. So they're just slowing both of us down for 2 corners. Here, coming out of the chicane in the very next corner, they just put one back wheel on the grass and they hit the throttle, I think, and then they spin out and crash out. And I'm considering, so since they had let me pass and the win is deservedly theirs, I figure I'll give it back. So here we see the crash. But then, as we see in the replay here, they brake nicely, so they're predictable for Donovan, who is then coming through in the yellow and green car. So I did see that on my timing sheet in the game, and my plan to let Roland repass was immediately off the table. Because yeah, before then I hadn't realized that Donovan had recovered so fast from our contact at the start of the lap, but there they are already. So yeah, can't let Roland repass without letting Donovan pass, and I didn't want to do that. Also, Roland immediately left the lobby right after, so I'm happy I didn't even try. So yeah, as you can hear, started the final lap as the leader of the race, pretty enjoyable. I had about a 3-second lead going into the last lap. I think Donovan in qualifying, his best lap was about 2 seconds faster than mine also. So I figured he would be able to come back decently, but maybe not fully. So my plan is to push decently hard and not give them a chance to come back too quickly, but also not so hard that I might make a mistake and mess it all up on the last lap. Yeah. So here I do mess it up a bit. I go slightly too deep into the chicane. It cost me a decent chunk of time. I'm already down a second and a half on my delta, so that's really bad. So my plan is not really playing out as I had hoped. Here in the second chicane on exit, I'm also too tight on the next corner, unfortunately, so that's not great either. Really checking my mirrors now because I see that Donovan is closing in super fast and I'm feeling the pressure there. I'm a bit slow here on exit as well, so I think they would come even closer. Luckily there's always the concertina effect, so they drop back a bit on the straights. Final chicane I mess up even worse, so yeah, really bad exit for me. They are so close, but I figure I can race them to the line and be fine, but only because of my head start coming out of the final chicane. So here if we replay it, indeed I just concertina effect a bit away from them. And then heading to the final chicane, they take a much neater line in the first corner, gives them a much better exit through the second one, much better line, and they would come back if the straight was a bit longer to the finish line, but I just about hold it. So yeah, I get all the congratulations from my race engineer, but I don't think I fully deserve the win. It was Roland's, if anyone's. But anyway, pretty fun experience nonetheless, and yeah, I enjoy this track, so looking to bring more of it. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.